And the stage is set for an episode which I can only describe as the implosion of every single relationship in the show. Except somehow Connor and Willa's relationship, which seems to be the most stable relationship right now on Succession. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know what to make of that. That's just, it's just a fact, I suppose, which is insane. And I guess it shows you how close everyone is to imploding. It's hard to pick a favorite character in Succession because there are just so many spectacular, amazing characters in so many different ways, but Tom has got to be right at the top of the list for me. I love Tom. I love the portrayal of Tom. I find him so funny. Him and Greg and all their situations and friendship, relationship, hateship, whatever's going on with Tom and Greg, I love it so very much. Tom and Shiv, on the other hand, has always felt more complicated, more messy, more kind of confusing, and I think that kind of speaks to their relationship. On one hand, it feels like they're perfect for each other. They kind of fit, like two hands that fit together or whatever. But on the other hand, it does feel like they're both kind of using each other in different ways. I do personally feel like they have made Shiv out to be a worse person in regards to Tom than Tom is to her for a lot of the show. I feel like there are so many moments throughout the series. One, her asking for an open relationship on their wedding night. I don't know. I almost feel like I can't get past that. At that point, I'm like, well, she was cheating on him and this and that, but that just feels, something about that just really, was me. And for those people who don't speak whatever that was, it just kind of feels gross and mean to me. And apart from just the kind of simmering passive aggressiveness underneath it all, and just the way she kind of belittles and mocks him in all these situations, which I probably wouldn't mind because I do like Shiv as a character in every other regard of the show, but when it comes to Tom, because I like Tom more, and just the way she does it, it feels always so kind of spiteful and mean, and I understand that their relationship is a bit kind of intense like that, but she's always kind of belittled him in these ways, and that moment where she does the dirty talk towards the end of season 3, and she just tells him that she hates him and she doesn't love him and he's always like this little puppy dog compared to her, and just, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember, but it just felt so rude and awful and true. And so when Tom did the unthinkable and betrayed her at the end of season 3, on one hand I'm like, well, that's really dogsy. But on the other hand, we've been building to this for the entire show. Nothing that Shiv has done with Tom in these big, powerful, heartbreaking moments, these really like disgusting, awful moments that she's done to Tom, I feel like this is the natural progression. It makes sense for him to do this right now. And then season 4 started and it did the strangest thing. It kind of time jumped us and we missed the conversation where she's like, you betrayed me. And he's like, you did all those things that I won't list because it's a show, but you know, and he says one or two of them and we go, oh yes, all those times those things happened or whatever. And they never had like a big fight, a big moment. There was an oddly tender moment with them on the bed and they go, I guess it's over, and it's all sad. And it was very sad. And it was kind of like, I don't know, it felt like it was almost safe though. And I don't think I realized how safe it felt until we finally had the Tom and Shiv moment that I didn't realize I needed after Tom betrayed her and after she'd done all the things to Tom throughout the series. And we finally got it, and it might be my favorite scene in Succession. It is perfect. Now, I've just talked a lot about how much I love Tom and how I'm kind of on his side, so it definitely sways how I feel. I found this fight to be so cleverly written because it's like, I'm not taking either side. They are both right and they are both kind of wrong. Mostly right about each other, and they kind of like psychoanalyze each other and take each other down in the most intimate, personal, horrible ways, like in a way that only someone who's really, really close to you and like truly does know you can do, which always hurts them most, which is why some breakups can just be so damaging and brutal and heartbreaking. And this kind of epitomized all of that, but did it in such a kind of exhilarating way to view as an audience member. This is the moment. This is the split. The episode starts with him bringing her breakfast in bed, and it's like, what kind of crazy fairyland is this? I don't know. What show is this? Is this some kind of parallel universe? No. It's just the calm before the storm. I also love he gives her like the breakfast and she's like, oh amazing. Oh, the servant made this incredible, like probably $100 bacon and eggs meal. Just put it over there or whatever. I'm doing politics or whatever. It is such a clever little moment to give us to kind of lull us into a false sense of security. Be like, oh my god, after all these things that have happened throughout the first 3 seasons, all of Shiv's little stuff she's done, and then Tom's big betrayal, which he kind of deserved, or maybe not, who's to say? They've both got so many reasons to hate each other, but to still love each other, and to not have that big moment at the start of the season, and to slowly build back their relationship, slowly clawing back. And at times I felt like, oh, this is a bit too soon, I don't like this. But of course they're going to slowly bring us back to loving these 2 characters together, and then to kind of end last episode where I'm like, I guess they deserve each other in this kind of weird, toxic way. And last episode even ended with Tom admitting how much he loves valuing money and power and all these things, and him and Shiv share this. Like, he says, hey, let's go live in a caravan park or whatever. And they both share some kind of crazy, evil laugh. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like everything they've done has built so perfectly for us to be like, I guess these 2 awful people that for some reason, because HBO and Succession are so well written, I just absolutely love, I guess they're perfectly fit for each other. And it's like a Romeo and Juliet, but the bad kind. But not that, because they die. Another example of 2 people that love each other. When like I know things, and I know, pop culture and relationships in pop culture. It's like when someone's like, what's your favorite movie? And you're like, I've never seen a movie. I don't know what a movie is. Yet all you do all day is talk about movies. My mind has gone blank. What's another relationship in a show ever? It just... Well, they're like Romeo and Juliet if they didn't die and they're just happy. Just, I guess, imagine your parents. No, well, that's a dangerous ask. Imagine, so they seemed perfect for each other. They seemed like a match made in heaven of some sort, some kind of hellish heaven situation or whatever. But this episode, things were starting to peel back. Things were starting to kind of fall back into how I felt their relationship felt in season 3. Not good. And once again, Shiv does what Shiv does best and belittles Tom. Just belittles him in all these little ways, and maybe not so little ways, like agreeing with Eric from True Blood and being like, yeah, I guess Tom's fired. Tom sucks. To, as Tom puts it, 40 of the most powerful people who are inside his house. It was such like a powder keg. Like every other character, it's just tick, 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 a time bomb waiting to explode or implode or do whatever bombs do. And this one came out with one of the most amazing displays of acting and writing and just, I don't know, it just felt like it let the air out of the room. Like, they were saying, like, let's clear the air, let's yell about all the things. And it's just, they said everything. They yelled about everything. I felt like both of them said everything I wish they would say to each other, and they just cleared the air. But of course, when you say things like, you don't deserve me, you never have, or you say stuff like, maybe I don't want to have a baby with you because maybe you shouldn't have children because you're the worst human being ever. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but pretty much not. Like, they just went so hard, and we suddenly reached this point where I'm like, oh, there's no turning back. This isn't like a yelling, clear the air, then they're going to go and have angry sex or something like that. No. They are done. They are done. And I don't know, I kind of, like, I'm so sad for them as characters, but I feel like it's almost like, I don't know, like it's cleansing for them. Like, they weren't good together. They were trying to make it work, but, they're not like this. They're like this. It's just, I don't know, it feels so satisfying in a horrible, sad kind of way. Like, I don't know, it was such a cathartic release of just everything getting let out of the air, everyone saying their piece, but also just like such good acting and like writing and just the way they kind of bounced off each other. It's one of those cases where you're like, I'm sure they could have done this scene in season 1, but because they've had so much time as actors to work with each other and to kind of bounce off each other, and it's always been in one mode, we've never seen this mode of Shiv and Tom. It is so like exciting and exhilarating and horrifying as an audience member to watch them belittle and mock each other in this way. It was stunning and sad. It was mostly sad, but I have such weird mixed emotions. Because I was kind of happy at the end of season 3. I'm like, yes, take that, Shiv. Like, you mildly deserve it, but also Tom, very dogsy. But, it felt like that was where we'd reach. And then season 4 felt like, oh, okay, as we're going to slowly get back together, that feels like we're undoing everything that the whole show has been building to with these two characters. But of course, it was a fake out. It was a cheeky fake out because Succession is perfect and I just never expect something to go the way it goes. It's just so good. I love this show. It's so good. So after last week's little hissy fit from Roman, where he fires Gerry and the studio executive and just goes on a big old firing rampage, I kind of thought that maybe Gerry would come back into the fold in some way, and it would kind of be a weird bittersweet moment where she kind of grovels back in and kind of begs for a job or does something that kind of makes you go like, oh, Gerry, you're better than this. That's such a shame. Damn you, Roman, for making her do that. That's so gross and mean. But in fact, we got the complete opposite. I love this scene where Gerry just kind of threatens Roman. She demands all these things. She's like, I'm going to have all the money. I'm going to write the narrative. And if you do anything to contradict anything, I'm going to sue the hell out of you. And Roman's like, oh. But she's got him. She's got him because he's a weird little sexless sex pest creep man who's just sending her dick pics all day. And so she's got all this leverage on him, which was never like, I don't know, I never envisioned those moments with the dick pics and stuff to be leverage. I always felt like it was really interesting and perverse and complicated character work and like, you know, analyzing like Roman as an individual and a man and how his like sex brain works. So what do you know, all that stuff or whatever. I never saw it as building up to be something that she could leverage against him on her way out of the series. It's fascinating. And it's kind of like a weird moment where it's like a fist bump moment for Gerry, where you're like, yes, Gerry, take that, Roman. Because I've never hated Roman more than when he fired Gerry. You know what? That's not true. The first time I watched the first episode, when he tears up that $1 million check for that little kid playing baseball, that was when I was like, wait, I thought this guy was the funny guy. This guy's the evil guy? I hate this guy. And then he like slowly gets funnier and funnier, and you kind of forget about that moment. But he did that. He did that to a little boy, and that's mean. And so whilst this moment for Gerry is like a fist bump, yeah, taking the power, taking control, taking down Roman in like her own little way, but it's also really sad. So much of this episode was like kind of amazing because you're like, Succession's so good, but then you're like thinking about it a bit more and you're like, but that's kind of sad though, isn't it? Like Gerry wins that moment and kind of, she's probably gonna be in more episodes, but she kind of leaves the company on a win. But she's leaving the company, something she didn't want to do, so it is a loss. It's just that she didn't leave kind of ruined and destroyed. She's at least got a bunch of money and all this stuff. Protection, the narrative, other words or whatever. But it just, yeah, it's like, but she wanted to like help Roman succeed and win the succession. Which I think is just another, like every episode since Logan's death is just like giving us one thing, either big things or little things, just being like, Roman's going to implode and he is 100% not going to win Succession. I don't think any of them are going to, but least of all Roman. And he deserves it the least as well. Maybe, probably, I don't know. So last week, Kendall ended the episode floating face up in the ocean. A moment that I read as a kind of ominous callback to the 2 times in the series he's almost drowned. But I also feel like maybe I misinterpreted it in ways where it is a triumphant moment. As people have pointed out to me, he's not face down this time, he's face up. And so it's a visual contrast to when he was at his lowest point. So now he's at his highest point. And whilst I think that is potentially how it was meant to be read, and I may have misinterpreted it, I still do think he's going to have a downfall, a drug-related breakdown, or some kind of implosion, self-destruction situation, even though he's the only character at this moment who seems to just be winning. But the reason I thought it was so ominous last week is because he was doing all these things and it paid off. He was being successful. It made me feel like Kendall was a bit of a Icarus, the man who flew too close to the sun. And so whilst he did win this episode of Succession, again, compared to his siblings, and seems most primed to be the next CEO, the next leader, the next successor to Logan Roy, I feel like he's going to get to this point and keep building and being more successful and keep winning episodes until either the final episode or the second last episode, where he is just going to burn in the sun like Icarus, who flew too close, and he's just going to crash and burn and implode and explode, self-destruct, and, do all the things that bombs like to do when they go off. I would love to be wrong. I love Kendall, and if anyone was going to win and everyone had to win, I'd want it to be Kendall. I feel like that would be so satisfying, since the first episode, he's about to win, and then his father's like, no, we want to have 4 seasons of this show. So it'd be such a good ending, but I really feel like this show is kind of slapping us over the face with just telling us none of them deserve this, or are good enough for this, or are gonna win. So don't expect it, because they just keep, I don't know, it's fascinating. I feel like you could definitely misread it and be like, not misread it, read it differently and see it as, Kendall's clearly going to win at this point. But I feel like that's a misdirect, because this show is so clever at kind of giving you something and being like, hey, do you like this? Tom and Shiv, breakfast in bed, how good's this? And then the episode ends with like the ultimate fight and they'll maybe never speak again.